Welcome to Real Conversations with Patricia Baranovsky-Schneider, the podcast that takes you on a journey around the world to meet some of the most inspiring and accomplished individuals. Discover their stories, uncover invaluable business lessons from their paths to success, and gain exclusive insights on how to apply their strategies to elevate your life and business.
Hello, and welcome to Real Conversations with Patricia. I'm your host, Patty Baranovsky-Schneider. Today, I'm joined by John Follis. I'm thrilled to welcome him. He's a man whose career journey is as inspiring as it's unconventional. From being fired 4 times to being honored at the White House, he's navigated the highs and lows of the business world with resilience and creativity. He's the co-founder of a top Madison Avenue agency. His campaigns have been featured in the New York Times, Forbes, and the Wall Street Journal. He's even made it into a Prentice Hall marketing textbook, which is pretty impressive. So beyond his professional achievements, John has shared his insights on creative thinking, overcoming rejection, and entrepreneurships through speaking engagements and appearances on over 80 podcasts worldwide. So John, it's an honor to have you on the show.
Thank you, Patricia. So happy to be here.
Thank you. So now your path from being fired 4 times to receiving recognition at the White House, it's extraordinary. So how did those early challenges shape your approach to success?
Well, there were a lot of dots to connect from getting fired to being honored at the White House. But essentially, it taught me that just because you get rejected doesn't mean that you can't recover from it and eventually be successful. If you're willing to continue striving for what you want to achieve, have a goal, have a clear goal, and understand what you need to do to achieve that goal. So that's, in a nutshell, what it taught me.
Thanks. So now can you walk us through the process of creating your impactful national ad campaign on child abuse and what it meant to be honored at the White House?
It's such a wild story. In fact, I don't know if you had the time to see the link that I think my assistant sent you, but it was such an interesting story. I actually created a narrative video about it because when I got the letter, and it was in the early 90s, I received a letter. The return address was the White House. So I said, well, someone's very creative in trying to get my attention. I never thought there was actually a letter from the White House. And when I opened it up, it was a very fancy invitation to a White House reception. And it didn't actually say why I was being invited, but there was a number to call. And when I called the number, it was explained to me that it was because of a national television campaign that our agency had done for child abuse prevention. And the White House wanted to honor people from around the country who were involved in various public service initiatives. So I was one of a couple dozen people that were invited to be at this reception. Now, how they found out about it, I don't really know. However, the spots that I created ran during the NBA playoffs of that year. And this is when the Lakers were playing the Bulls. So we had Michael Jordan going against Magic Johnson. And I'm pretty sure, at the time it was George Bush the first. Okay. And I'm pretty sure that he was a big sports fan. So even though I don't know for sure, I have a feeling that he was watching basketball and the spots ran very, very heavily during the playoffs. The NBA actually donated $5 million worth of media time, and this was in 91. So just imagine $5 million in 1991 in about 5 weeks.
Wow.
So the spots ran maybe 5 or 6 times during every playoff game. And the only thing I can conclude is that George Bush was watching basketball, and I think his wife was involved. One of her projects was child abuse. Okay. And said, Barbara, you got to watch these commercials. We got to find out who did these commercials. Get this guy over to the White House. So that's the only thing I could figure out. But to get the project from the NBA was quite a story. And I'll just give the nutshell. My mind, my creative mind is always kind of turned on. So at any moment, I might see something or hear something that would spark an idea. And what initially got the process of getting invited to the White House started with me watching TV one night, seeing something on a public TV documentary on Adolf Hitler and mentioned that Hitler was abused as a kid on a daily basis by his father. And my brain kind of, the on switch turned on, and I said, somewhere in this fact would be a great ad for child abuse prevention when Hitler was abused as a kid. So I came up with an idea for an ad, showed it to my partner, who thought it was one of the best ads he had ever seen, and he started making phone calls, connected with the child abuse organization that was in Chicago. I don't know what he said to them, but during the course of the conversation, they mentioned they were going to be in New York meeting with the NBA. Didn't say why they were meeting with the NBA, but they said, if you want to meet us in a couple of weeks up at the NBA offices. So 2 weeks later, we found ourselves in a meeting thinking that we were just going to be meeting with the child abuse people. And next thing we know, we're in a meeting with the NBA people. We didn't realize that they were negotiating with the NBA to get this free TV exposure.
Okay.
So they didn't really care about the print ad that we were showing them with Hitler. They just needed an agency that could come up with some ideas for commercials in about 2 weeks, because the playoffs were like a month and a half away, and they needed to produce some spots. So it was just crazy, starting from me watching TV one night to end up meeting with the NBA and child abuse people and getting offered on some national TV spots that were running during NBA playoffs. So it was just a wild story. But I'll just say that, I'll say lastly, the NBA would have been happy with some spots with their players just on camera with a little kid on their lap reading from a teleprompter, a script.
Right.
So when they initially asked us if we wanted this assignment, my first reaction was, not if that's all you want to do. If you just want to do that, if that's your idea of a PSA, you could get someone else to do that. We're a creative agency. We think we can do better than that. And I mean, that was my, that was my talent, to come up with really highly impactful, attention-getting spots that really communicated the message that we're trying to communicate. So when I asked them if they were really open to doing something creative and attention-getting, they said, sure, we'll give it a shot. Let's see what you got. And it was because the spots were so impactful. I think that's why they were also very effective. They were extremely effective, and that's one of the reasons why I think they told the NBA how successful they were, and it was a great honor to be invited to the White House for it.
That's like, wow. These are stories that just not everybody can come up with. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Wow. Totally unexpected. I mean, like I said, when I got that letter, I was in total shock. I didn't think it was real, and then it was kind of interesting to see how the whole thing happened.
It's nice when your expertise is recognized, because so many times it's not. I mean, it is, but you don't know about it.
After getting fired 4 times and being told by my first advertising instructor that I didn't have the talent to be in the advertising business, it was quite a vindication for sure.
Well, it's funny because I do these videos like every week called Been There, Done That, where I just give my 2 cents on, things. And I did one about never give up, and it talks about stories, but like one of them in there was Oprah Winfrey. She was fired from her job. They said she just didn't have what it takes to be on TV. And look at her today. So sometimes it's just not what you're doing, it's who you're doing it with. So yeah, you obviously proved them wrong.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, pretty much every successful person has a story about being rejected. So it's not uncommon. And it's just the people that are willing to persevere on those that have a strong enough desire to accomplish whatever they're trying to do that end up, becoming the Oprah Winfreys of the world. Yeah.
Nice. So now tell us, leading one of the top Madison Avenue ad agencies, it must have been an incredible experience. So what lessons did you take from that time that still resonate with you today?
Well, it just goes back to what I was saying, just to believe in yourself and believe that you have the talent and ability to really be successful at your field. In my case, coming up with great concepts for advertising, and just realizing that sometimes it's a matter of just connecting with the right people. I didn't do well in the corporate world. I it just wasn't a good fit for me. I didn't realize it at the time, but I think it was because deep down I was very entrepreneurial,
Okay.
and just the bullshit that was going on in the
Right.
corporate world kind of got under my skin. And it wasn't until I kind of shifted gears and pivoted and started
Right.
doing freelance work that I kind of hit my stride and had some very successful ad campaigns when I was freelancing that attracted a guy who was a business development guy who was very impressed with the work that he had seen I had done, and said that he was convinced with my creative talent and his aggressiveness in getting business that we could start an agency. And that's exactly what happened. We didn't know that it would be successful, but he was really, really good at getting meetings with really good clients.
Good.
And I never, I just needed the opportunity to kind of
Mhm.
showcase the work that I did. So
Right.
we worked really well together. And that was a big reason we were as successful as quickly as we were.
Nice. Win-win for sure. Nice.
Yeah.
Now, you're known for your innovative thinking. So, how do you approach creative problem solving, especially when faced with difficult challenges?
Uh, you really have to understand what first of all, you have to really understand what it is you're selling. A lot of times we get a meeting with a client, we didn't really know exactly what the product or service did, and what made them special. And you hope that there's something about their product or service that's special. It's more difficult when it's just a commodity product
Mhm.
because you don't really have anything you can leverage. So we did try to seek out clients that had something that we thought was made them special, because then
Mhm.
you could latch onto that, and then the question becomes, well, how do you communicate what it is that's so special about their product? And depending on what the media is, uh, when we started out, social media didn't exist, so it was either a print ad or a TV
Mhm.
commercial or billboard or radio commercial. And the key is to really, regardless of what the media is, you have to grab their attention,
Mhm.
because it doesn't matter what you say if you don't get their attention. So, especially like in a 30-second commercial, if you don't do something in the first 5 seconds of that
Mhm.
commercial, it doesn't really matter. So, I was trained to think creatively. I went to a good school, had a good program for advertising. So, and then I took what was really helpful for me, Patricia, was when I started working in New York, I went back to school. I took night classes at the School of Visual Arts, which had some of the best working professionals in the business teaching at night.
Mhm.
So you're learning from active professionals who are, just the best in the business. And I probably took 4 or 5 different courses at night while I was working.
Right.
And that really helped me to hone my creative skills.
Right. It's always good when you're learning from someone who's in that field already, because, we all kind of know what we want, but when you see it in action, it's kind of like, wow, okay, this is exactly what I need to do. Nice.
Yeah, and learn from the people who are the best at,
Yeah.
what they're doing.
Yeah. Now, rejection's a universal experience, especially in high stakes industries like advertising. So, what strategies help you bounce back and keep moving forward?
Rent.
Exactly.
I know you're outside of New York. I was living in Manhattan.
No, I'm actually in New York. I'm born and raised in Manhattan.
Oh, you're living in Manhattan now?
I'm born and raised in Manhattan. I'm in Long
Okay.
Island now, but yeah,
Right. Farmingdale, right?
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So rent is a good motivation.
Oh, yeah.
And also, I started, I don't feel like, I mean, I feel like the reasons I was fired were more political reasons, more kind of bullshit issues. So more than anything, it just kind of added fuel to my fire, just gave me more motivation to prove that they made a mistake, you
Mhm.
know?
That's awesome. I'm kind of that same way. If you tell me I can't do something, I'm going to do it 10 times better just because you said I couldn't do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So now partnerships can make or break a business. So what have your experiences taught you about building and maintaining successful professional relationships?
Well, you have to for a business relationship to be successful, um, you have to be working with a person or people who do things well that you don't do well. You have to have complementary skill sets, right? As I mentioned earlier, maybe earlier in our conversation, my business partner wasn't a creative guy. He was excellent at business development. He was really good at PR, which are good skills to have because if you do great work and no one knows that you do great work, that's not going to be helpful. But he was he really greased the wheels for a lot of the PR we had. We were in the press almost every month, in Ad Week on a regular basis, but also the New York Times, Wall Street Journal.
Yes.
And that really helped us grease the wheels for new business for sure. So it helps to have someone like that it's complementary, but you also have to have a level of trust. It's like any kind of relationship. If you don't have that, it's not going to last long. And yeah, so I would say that those things are important for a successful partnership. Yeah.
Yeah, well, tell us, what do you say are the three most critical elements for thriving in a creative industry like advertising?
Well, it starts with having talent, a lot of talent, really, really being good at
Right.
whatever creative industry you're in, really being the best, not just
Right.
good, but really being the best at what you do. And that was for me, that was always a goal. I wanted to be the best at what I did. And I felt I was. I felt there was no one better. So that's where that starts. But you also need to get the opportunity to showcase your work. And it's really tough if you're a creative person to also be selling yourself as a creative person. It doesn't come off well. You can't introduce yourself and tell people you're the best.
Right.
It helps if you have someone standing next to you in a jacket and tie
Right.
saying he's the best,
Yeah.
and we want to work with you. So that's why it's so important to have someone like that. Just like an agent, anyone who is a creative person successful in any creative industry, they have a manager, they have a PR person, they have someone who is helping to sell them and get them the opportunities.
Right. Yeah, 100%. Now, you kind of talked on this a little bit, but how have office politics impacted your career? And what advice would you give to others navigating complex workplace dynamics?
Yeah, I'm not the best person to give advice about it because I wasn't good at it, and I really didn't want to be good at it because I didn't like the corporate environment. Um, so the way it affected me is it just made me realize that being successful in the corporate environment is as much or more about your ability to navigate the politics or the personalities in that environment as much as it is your skill set or your talent.
Mhm.
I mean, once I started working in these big agencies, I would see people who are in management positions. It's kind of like that show, The Office. You say, how did that guy become a manager? The guy's an idiot.
Yeah, you see that in every type of workplace. So it's,
Right.
yeah,
So it
I
just
agree.
made me realize at a certain point that however they got there, um, is not the path that I necessarily want to
Right.
follow. If that's what it takes to move up in the corporate
Mhm.
ranks, then I have to kind of reevaluate whether I want to be in this environment.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I've been doing this 35 years, but I started as receptionist and had to work my way up the corporate ladder. And I was involved in everything. And I remember like I'm here, and then there'd be someone who just graduated college and they're here. And I'm like, but what experience do they have? They have none. Meanwhile, I could tell you exactly how to do this 10 times over, frontwards, backwards. But unfortunately, it's like the game of politics. So I get it.
Right.
Now, looking back, is there a particular campaign or project that stands out as a career highlight for you, and what made it so impactful?
Yeah, well, there's several actually. The child abuse campaign is certainly one, in large part because it's great when I mean it's fine to be selling Twinkies and fish sticks and car batteries, but whenever you have an opportunity to work on a, a a pro bono, a cause that's really meaningful, it just makes it even more significant than just selling a product or service. So
Mm-hmm.
that's one I'm certainly proud of. But the other one that I'm really proud of was the first campaign that my partner and I pitched. We had only known each other for maybe 4 or 5 months, and he came to me and said we have a meeting with a company that wants a TV commercial for a jam product, and company in New Jersey, never heard of it. It was called Sorrel Ridge. It was called the Sorrel Ridge 100% fruit spread. I never heard of it. I didn't know about it because it was an all fruit product, and they sold it only in health food stores.
Okay.
And this was decades ago, Patricia. So it was being sold at a time where there were no other all fruit products that people, you go to the store and you see Smuckers and all these other jams that were all corn syrup and refined sugar. And people really didn't think about healthy products like that. So he wanted an agency to do a TV commercial that stressed the benefit of this product that he said, when we met with the guy, he said, guess how much fruit is in an average jar of Smucker's preserves? I said, I don't know, 70%. He said 8%. He said the rest of it is corn syrup, refined sugar, and water. It's just 8% fruit solids in Smucker's. He said, we have 100% fruit and fruit juice. That's a big difference. He said, I think people need to know about this. So it was very exciting, talk about having a product with a real benefit. And he also said, if you want to go competitive against Smucker's, that's fine with me. So we did a competitive campaign, and we were pitching, when we were invited to pitch, we were pitching against at least 3, I think maybe 4 other bona fide ad agencies. And we were just a couple of guys who had only known each other for 4 months working out our apartments. And the creative work that we presented beat out these other 4 agencies.
Nice.
And it was about $500,000 worth of TV media. And the campaign, Patricia, was so successful. The first month, sales were up 90%.
Wow.
And after 4 or 5 months, he decided to put another $500,000 in the media because it's very rare that you see such dramatic results that quickly. But in this case, he did. And so he just said, this is a good investment. Let me put some more money. Eventually, the campaign was so successful, it became a Harvard business case study, which is really exciting. So, and then it got written up in Forbes. It was a feature article in Forbes and some other major press. So that's certainly, that was the account that actually enabled us to start our agency because it was so successful. We were making 15% on the media. So, when he puts another $500,000 in media, we're getting a nice commission on that.
Nice. Well, it definitely shows that you know what you're doing. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Now, reflecting on your remarkable career, what advice would you give to your younger self? And what do you consider the defining moments of your journey?
So in my high school yearbook, you're asked to give a quote. At least our high school said you need to put a quote for your high school picture. And my quote in high school was, where there's a will, there's a way.
Okay.
And I guess I would tell myself that that's a good one. That's a good one, to stick with that and really believe that, because at least in my case, that turned out to be true. And it just goes back to some of the things I said earlier, is that everyone's going to get rejected at some point. And it really does become a question of how badly do you want it? How much are you willing to pick yourself up and go for it, even when you're not feeling very successful, to just not give up and figure out. Sometimes you got to reevaluate though. If you keep hitting a brick wall, then maybe you got to pivot and go in a different direction.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Whenever there's a mountain, you either have to, go over it, go around it, or go under it.
Mhm.
So you sometimes you have to reevaluate, but keep your eye on your goal, what you want to achieve, and then figure out maybe a different way of getting there. In my case, it was pivoting and doing more entrepreneurial freelance projects.
That was awesome, but you still stuck with your, what you wanted to do, which is how you got there, which was, good. You didn't, deter and say, oh, because I've seen people like that where they just start stuff, they get rejected. They're like, all right, this just isn't for me. And I'll just go back, scrape the bottom of the barrel and start. No, if that's what your passion, figure out a different way to get there, so that's good. Now, anything else you want to talk about that we didn't already cover?
No, they're very good questions, by the way. I think you
Thank
asked some
you.
very, very good questions. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you. Well, how could people get a hold of you and learn more about you?
Well, if they know how to spell my name, they can just plug it into Google, because I've been posting, when I was in business and active in promoting myself, I put tons and tons of content online. So all you need to do is pop my name into Google
Awesome.
and you'll see a ton of stuff.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you again for being on the show. Again, that was John Follis. So thanks for listening to Real Conversations with Patricia. Never miss an episode by subscribing to the channel. So thank you again.
Thank you, Patricia.
My pleasure.
Thank you for listening to Real Conversations with Patricia, talking with some of the most brilliant minds on their journey to success and their recommended strategies. Please leave your feedback and visit pristineadvisors.com to get the latest and greatest business advisement on the planet. Feel free to let me know your thoughts, suggestions, and anything else you'd like me to cover. Together, we can make success happen for all.